Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I can fix Alan Lichtman's failed 13 keys prediction. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content, press like button, share this video, don't forget we have memberships. If you are interested, you can find a link to that in the description section. So, let's begin. Now, Alan Lichtman, as we all know, incorrectly predicted Kamala Harris would be the winner of this election. And I think there's a few things on why he was wrong. I think there's two keys that, if he factored in those keys, he could have been right. So, starting off with the first thing, he gave key number 5, strong short-term economy, for Kamala Harris. I disagree with that. I think it should have been based on public perception of the economy, and that's what really costed Kamala Harris the election, and it also costed his prediction to be false because he did not consider or factor in public perception. He just based it off of literally GDP growth, which voters literally do not care about, and it showed on election day. Voters don't care about GDP growth, and they didn't feel, apparently, the good economy that the Democrats have been talking about. They've just kept saying the economy's great, but guess what? It doesn't reach to the voters because the voters don't feel that way. And he gave key number 5 to Kamala, and I just disagree with that, so that's why I think he went wrong. I think if he gave this key to Donald Trump because of public perception, even though the GDP growth favors Democrats, still does not matter. I think he could have been right in this area. So I think the bias got to him, and he just took the ignorant route, because if he wasn't so ignorant, he would acknowledge that, which, by the way, the second key that if he factored in, he would have been right, is a fake nominee. Kamala Harris, by the way, was not nominated by any voters. She was chosen by the delegates. The people did not vote. And that has never happened in any presidential election. And people kept telling Alan Lichtman that. And guess what? You know what his response was? People tell him all the time in elections that, oh, this never happened, that never happened, but his keys are apparently always right. For example, in 2016, people told him that, for example, America would not elect a female president. And he says, stick to the keys, disregard that. In 2008, he predicted Obama would win. And this is his argument. America has never elected an African American president. And they did. So his keys will always be right. And that's why he was ignorant. And in this election, but I think this one was more important because literally, never ever has a nominee been chosen by the delegates and received 0 primary votes. She was swapped in at the last second. I think if Biden had dropped out earlier and they had candidates, then I think Democrats would have a better chance at beating Donald Trump. So the two exact keys that I think he should have factored in is public perception of the economy, which would help him correctly predict a Trump win, and also a candidate that was not chosen by the votes. Instead, it was chosen by the delegates. So those are the two keys I think he would if you were to factor in those keys, which he didn't. He was just completely ignorant. He says his keys is always right. And so what he often does is, if he's wrong in an election, he would change the keys after he's wrong, and he just wouldn't change them before the election was held. And then as for the midterm games, obviously we can all agree that Republicans flipped the House in 2022. The Senate is not factored in here. It's only focused on the House of Representatives. And as we all know, Republicans won the House in those midterm elections. You take a look at no primary contest. Meanwhile, I'm going to leave this key number 2 undecided because it's just not true. No primary contest. I mean, even though it's true, Kamala Harris had no primary contest, that's just because she was swapped in as the candidate and they didn't even have a primary. Yet again, she was chosen by the delegates. So even though she had no primary contest, it still doesn't work like that, which is another reason why Alan Lichtman was wrong. She was literally swapped in. Of course, she's going to have no primary contest if they don't even allow a primary. And then you have key number 3, which he also gave that to Harris as well, by the way. Key number 3, incumbent seeking re-election. Obviously, that's false. We can all agree that Biden did not run for re-election. And I literally used the 13 keys to predict a Trump victory. And I think I can do it the correct way. And as for key number 4, no third-party candidate. This is also tricky. Even though there's no third-party candidate, Alan Lichtman always says no third party benefits the incumbent Party. That's not actually always true, guys, because RFK was taking more votes away from Trump. And when he dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump, that literally gave Donald Trump more votes, and that's why Alan Lichtman is wrong. So I actually think key number 4 should go in favor of Donald Trump. Even though there's no third-party candidate, he thinks that if there's no third-party candidate, that always benefits the incumbent party. That's just not true. Like I just mentioned, RFK was taking more support from Trump, who is the challenger, who's not the incumbent. And when he endorsed Donald Trump and dropped out, and he's literally going to work in his administration, the votes for RFK would go back to Donald Trump, and it would boost his chances significantly of winning the election. Alan Lichtman doesn't understand that. He's ignorant. He thinks that third-party candidates always benefit the incumbent party. That is not always true. I think these keys really do not benefit Kamala Harris. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the economy. Key number 6, okay, he goes based off of per capita, so I'll slightly give that to Kamala Harris. Key number 7, major policy change. Even though there was a major policy change, obviously, Biden administration is completely different than Donald Trump's. It does not necessarily mean that majority of people think the country is headed in the right direction. Majority of people actually think the country's headed in the wrong direction, almost 70%. And only like what, a fourth, like 25% of people think the country is headed in the right direction. So key number 8, no social unrest. Now, I think this one's a little iffy. I'll slightly give that to Kamala Harris. I guess, I mean, what's going on with Israel, obviously, people are claiming that's a genocide and whatever. I think that is slightly social unrest, but it's just not quite enough. It's not big enough as what we saw with BLM in 2020. So I would guess I would slightly give that to Kamala Harris. And also, what's happening with inflation and stuff, even though Democrats argue inflation's low and the economy is doing great, just like I mentioned for key number 5, it's all about public perception. And I think that could factor in social unrest as well. But for the sake of this, I'll give that slightly to Kamala Harris because those things are not as big as BLM. And then you have no scandal. Obviously, Kamala Harris has no scandal. That's a no-brainer. You have key number 10, no foreign military failure. That is false, guys. That is completely false. You saw what happened in Afghanistan and what's going on with Russia and Ukraine as well, and Israel too. And then you have key number 11, major foreign policy success. That is completely false. You can't name one thing that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden together did that was successful in terms of foreign policy. I literally just can't think of anything. I mean, in general, it's just a complete failure. You have key number 12, charismatic incumbent. Obviously, that is not true. Kamala Harris is not incumbent at all. I mean, charismatic at all. Key number 13, uncharismatic challenger. That is true. Donald Trump is not charismatic. Now, he is charismatic to his own base and his own party, but that's not the point. He has to be charismatic to independents and even some Democrats as well, which is what Obama did, which is why, in my opinion, he was charismatic, because not only did he do good with his base, but also he's charismatic to independents and even some Republicans as well, which is why there's a huge party shift in 2016 that a lot of the Obama supporters actually flipped to Donald Trump. So you can be charismatic to your own, your own party, which Donald Trump is, but still he has to reach out to some Democrats, which just simply did not happen. Obviously, a lot of Democrats voted for him, but still, it's not big enough to consider Donald Trump charismatic. So, in my opinion, I can literally predict the 13 keys. I can literally use the 13 keys to predict a Donald Trump victory. He would get 7 keys. If I was Alan Lichtman, I would give Donald Trump these 7 keys and Kamala Harris 5 keys. I can't fill in key number 2, no primary contest, because even though she had no, contest, it's, she still did not receive a single vote in a primary. So you can't really know if she's going to get the votes that originally voted for her because no one literally voted for her. So, she had no base to begin with, and she literally had 3 months, for people to know her, and that just simply was not enough time. And Alan Lichtman was stubborn, and he just doesn't acknowledge that Kamala Harris was swapped in at the last second. That's not how elections work. And the perception of the economy was a big factor on why Alan Lichtman was wrong. He just doesn't, talk about the perception of the economy. He just goes based off of GDP growth and per capita. And that's not what the voters feel at all whatsoever, which led to a Donald Trump victory and which also led to Alan Lichtman being wrong. I predicted Donald Trump would win through Alan Lichtman's 13 keys, and this is exactly how it would go. So to sum it up, if you were to add public perception and a candidate not receiving a single vote being swapped in at the last second. I believe Alan Lipkin would have been right if he were to factor in those two things, and I literally just showed you guys right now. Key number 2, no primary contest. That's just not how that works. I'm not gonna fill it in at all. And then key number 5, I think that should be based off of public perception. GDP growth, I think that should go in favor of Donald Trump. So Donald Trump ended up winning, and if I was Alan Lichtman, this is how it would have looked like, and that's where he was wrong. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do you think that this is a good fix that I did on Alan Lichtman's 13 Keys tracker? And one last final reminder, to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss all my content. Press like button, share this video. Don't forget, we do have memberships. You can find a link to that in the description section if you are interested. Thank you everyone for watching.